Okay, so Sam, um, let's walk this conversation down the road. Talking about Africa in traditional settings, what are those practices that Africans were doing, the Africans, Nigerians were engaging in then that have been stopped? That, in your noble view, you think if they are revived, will better our society?
Mm-mm. Mm-mm. Before the coming of the white man, whenever people had twins, they will be thrown into the evil forest. According to our traditional then and our belief, only animals litter, like goats and other sheep, pig, but certainly not human beings. It was purely out of ignorance, right? So when the white people came, particularly Mary Slessor, she came with a team that stopped that practice. Yeah, that's right. The clean-up twins, went to the evil forest, They don't get slaughtered, no. They just get thrown into, which was the apex of cruelty, throw a live child into the bush to be eaten. And I'm shudder to contemplate that it ever happens. It's not the kind of thing you're going to revive, certainly not, but it's not. Again, in those days, if a very hairy woman sprouted some hairs on her chest, it would be difficult for her to get married. Yeah. Because only men are supposed to have that. So it becomes a problem for the women. Whereas, it is purely biological. I mean, it's not a crime. You don't control the hairs that develop around your body, right?
Yeah.
Some people are more hairy than the others, but then, or something like that, there was even a song, when I was a kid. I was hearing that song, so it was a taboo. People never tolerated women sprouting hairs on their chest, and that's something else. But then again, can I remember?
Did you experience the era of slave trade then?
No, we did not. We were already in the township, we were in school, so most of those influences had been done away with by the time we were born and were in the township,
Is there any way you can tell us the history of slave trade then?
Yes, why not? Ordinarily, you always had miscreants in every traditional society, and sometimes you're required to ostracize them, to deal with them with finality. People constitute some kind of nuisance within the traditional society. Don't do this thing, it's not tolerable, it's not proper. You go ahead and do it. Then a meeting will be summoned, and at the end of the meeting, sanctions will be applied. The severest sanction then was ostracizing the person, So get out, we don't want to see you again, things like that. And if such a thing was done, nobody would communicate with you. Yeah. You were sent out completely, You could go to another town where nobody knows you and settle down. But for that environment where you were born, you will no longer be tolerated. In fact, you remind me now of the masquerade, Masquerades are relations in the spirit world. Now, if there is something that you have done that cannot be tolerated, you are warned, you keep doing this thing and doing it over and over again because you believe that nobody can touch you, nobody can harm you. The masquerades are invited to come as umpires and give their own verdict. The moment they do, you are banned.
From the community.
Oh, you are banished completely. This is why you hear people say, no one eme shikeri nne tipulie mmanwụ ka ọnụ ive. That is when, the moment the masquerade appears, the masquerade is an umpire that you cannot influence, an incorruptible umpire. So if the masquerade says, this is wrong, it is wrong. If you are found guilty, right, you are ostracized. That's the essence of the presence of the masquerade. Yeah.
This now reminds me of what does it mean to say that someone has been banished? No meraro.
Yeah, that's what alu is taboo. That it's unthinkable that you could commit something like this. It is against the laws of the land. And there is no way you can appease the gods because that's intolerable. Therefore, you must leave that environment and go elsewhere. Yeah, that is banishment. You'll not be killed, but you'll be banished, you'll be ostracized, you'll be banished, you're sent completely out of the community. Yeah, And you see, the traditional society, or the male-oriented society, the kings traditionally were men, not women. No. Well, maybe there are parts of Igbo land that are matrilineal. You're recognized by your mother's name, and those people who are matrilineal, where succession is concerned, somehow, sometimes allow women to sit on their throne. But generally, in Igbo land, it's what you call primogeniture in Igbo land. The very first person, the Diopala, is the person who inherits whatever belongs to the family. Not women. So, these days, a lot of people, you women, they've been trying to do everything like white women and then trying to put the men in trouble a lot. Otherwise, look at the way things are today. If my wife takes money from my pocket, the law covers her, right?
Yes.
Oh, you and your husband are one. There's nothing wrong. But if you take from your wife, it's stealing.
It becomes the issue.
Yeah, it's stealing, and that's precisely the kind of law you have overseas, which is why the moment your wife phones the town council to say you're beating your son or your child, which is a corrective measure, right? Spare the rod, spoil the child. The moment they come, you are chased out of the house. Yeah. Before you go again to see your family, you'll be accompanied by policemen. You will not even get into your house, no. You will stay outside. They'll invite your wife out, talk with them. They'll give you time. Is that the kind of thing most of you are trying to import now, man? You people can't reduce us to, sometimes when it is mentioned, you don't understand it. The white people worship women. White people worship women. This is why they get down on their knees to give them ring. I want to marry you. Ordinarily, if you genuflect before any entity, it is in recognition of the superiority spiritually of that entity. For example, I'm a Roman Catholic. If I get into the church, I genuflect, make the sign of the cross before I sit down. Why do I do that? I am recognizing that I am in the presence of a superior spiritual entity. Now, let's take it out by extension. If you kneel before a woman, you are already acknowledging her superiority, and you offer her a ring. You have sold your headship to her. She is now in a position to treat you as she wants. Like what is happening in white countries, right? You will see a man going to do chores that are left for women. going to bathe little children, to wash napkins. Nobody even not what men are supposed to be doing, but because women will always want to colonize men, which is not very reasonable, because you people are in the majority in terms of number, which is why a man can marry 2, 3, 4, the best way to maintain peace in the family is not by struggling to contest headship with your husband. That does not make much sense. Yeah.
Coming down to what you just said now, when you talk of polygamy, then the practices then and now, what's your view on it, or advice you can give the people on it now?
Like I said, nwoke na-anọchi obi. Ordinarily, you see, okay, let's really get down to our culture. In those days, most of the people who were going to farm were women. So if you had a lot of yam barns, yam farms, women would be working on those farms. So the more women you had, the more yields you get from the farms, But outside that, if you were occupying a traditional stool, you certainly would like to be succeeded by a man. If you're married to a woman who produces just females, you are compelled by the demands of that traditional stool to go marry somebody else, right? And you will keep trying until you start getting males from those women, right? So that in our own traditional society, polygamy is allowed. It's understandable. Yeah. But you see, we have all embraced Christianity. And Christianity will tell you that it's one man, one wife. Yeah. But if you are a king, you will skip that and marry as many as you can, just to make sure that a man succeeds you, and I think God will understand too. So, things like that.
Okay. All right.